Freddy, I realize we only just did a charming little number on disintegration, a real crowd pleaser, but it occurred to me, why stop there? Words, after all, have feelings too. They deserve to be blasted into oblivion with the same dramatic flair we give everything else. So, that's what we're up to today. Exploding words in geometry nodes. Because nothing says art quite like turning language into a stylish detonation. Welcome to Blending with Algernon. I am Sir Algernon, Blender Instructor Extraordinaire, and this is my collaborator Freddy. Say hello, Freddy. We are working in Blender version 4.40, available for free at blender.org. Right then, let's wipe the slate clean, shall we? Out with the old chaos. Time for some fresh nonsense. Let's get cracking by splitting the view, shall we? Top half, throw in a mesh plane, the unsung hero destined to carry our geometric wizardry. Down below, toddle off to the geometry node editor, hit New, and just like that, we're off. The sacred ritual of geo-noodling commences. Bin the geometry input node. We won't be needing that today, thank you very much. In its place, summon forth a string node. This is where our grand word is born. Go on then, Freddy. Type in something suitable for our noble experiment. Preferably not Blender is pain this time, eh? Next up is a string to curves node to give our word some style. Connect the output of that node to the group output, and let's see what we've got. Yes, we have a word, but it needs help. Let's center it and select an appropriate font. Good grief, Freddy. How many fonts have you got installed? No wonder your computer wheezes like it's climbing Everest in flip-flops. Frankly, I'm surprised it hasn't just given up and printed everything in Comic Sans out of protest. All right, that's good enough. But I don't want just outlines. We need to fill the font with a fill curve node. And while we're at it, change the fill type to n-gons. We also need some depth. Add an extrude mesh node, and let's make that offset small to around 0.1. Perfect. We have our word. Now let's utterly ruin it with points. Add a distribute points on faces node, and for a touch of mathematical chaos, set the distribution type to poisson disc, which, yes, Freddy, does mean fish in French, though sadly no actual seafood involved. False advertising, really. Increase the density max to something denser. Say 2000 for now. And there it is. A word, now bravely masquerading as a rice cake. Honestly, Freddy, I'm torn between continuing the tutorial and making a cup of tea with snacks. But let us press on and animate. Make some room and add a set position node. To this, we shall connect our trusted noise texture. Color to offset and... well, not quite what I had in mind, but easy fix. At the moment, our points are merely instances. We must first realize them with a realize instances node. Perfect. We've smashed the rice cake. However, we're off the origin. Untick the normalize box, and we're set. Let's switch the noise texture to 4D, so we have access to the 4D slider. This will give us infinite variations of our points. One must have choices in life, right, Freddy? Next, let's reduce the scale to around 1.5 for a more condensed cluster. Now the goal is to make our points swirl dramatically, while also flinging themselves outward like they've just heard bad news. Sure, we could faff about with simulations and tangents, but let's not overcomplicate things. This isn't the Royal Ballet. Just chuck in a vector math node, set it to multiply, and let's pretend we planned it this way all along. As you can see, this does the trick. Since we will be adjusting equally along X, Y, and Z, let's add a combine XYZ node to simplify even more. Connect vector to vector, and then create a value node to control our triple input. 1 to 3, and then shift right mouse button across the 3 to join them through a single reroute just to keep things tidy. Excellent. Now let's get rid of the Rice Krispie points and replace them with some proper geometry. Add an instance on points node and a mesh circle as the instance. It looks like a bagel, flattened by a steamroller. Change the fill type to n-gon and the vertices to 3 for nice triangles. Also make them much smaller. Around 0.01 for the radius. Yes, I like it, however, it's too uniform. Let's introduce some randomness. Create a random value node and set it to vector. Connect it to the rotation of the instance on points node. We'll need a second random node for scale, so go ahead and duplicate it and connect its value to scale. For our rotation values, let's go from a minimum of 0 to a maximum of 180 degrees. And for the scale, go from 0.5 to 1.75. Perfect. It looks like deadly confetti. We're getting there, Freddy. Slowly, but with just enough flair to pretend we know what we're doing. Time to shift our attention to animation, the bit where things actually move, instead of just sitting there like a soggy biscuit. Hop back to our singular value to rule them all. Rewind the playhead to the beginning, set the value to 0, and tap the letter I to keyframe. Yes, Freddy, as in, I really hope this works. Then fast forward to the end, and let's change the value to 500 for good measure. Rewind and play. Yes, it's doing it correctly. In the same way, a sledgehammer technically opens a walnut. Functional, sure, but tragically lacking the finesse I was hoping for. Let's split our window again and open up the graph editor. Select our value node, so we may see its purpose in the graph editor. Adjust the view, so we can also see it in its entirety. Select all the keyframes in the graph editor, and then right-click to bring up some options. We need to change the interpolation mode to Bezier, so we get nice curves and handles to play with. The beginning of our explosion is far too fast, so grab the right handle of the first keyframe and drag that to the far right. And adjust the last keyframe with the handles as well. This is entirely up to your preference, and may require some fiddling to achieve your desired goal. Freddy, fiddle and achieve, please. That looks rather good. Shockingly so, in fact. Let's press on. Back in the geometry node editor, let's have a tidy up, shall we? Chaos is coming, and we might as well pretend we're prepared. What I propose to do is to split our various points into 2 batches and have each batch move differently. So let's duplicate a few of our nodes, mainly these that Freddy has highlighted. Next, right off the Realize Instances node, create a separate geometry node for our split. We'll need to tell it how to split, and this can be achieved with a random node that is set to Boolean. Fiddling with the probability slider, we can select our instances as we like, but let's just keep that at a 0.5, or an even split. Now, from our separate geometry node, we want to take the inverted selection, which is merely a random half selection, and feed that into the set position node of our duplicate cluster of nodes. Now tie the 2 selections together with a join geometry node, a bit of digital duct tape, really. Then, down in the noise texture of our duplicate node setup, tweak the W parameter ever so slightly. That'll give us a different scattering of triangle bits. Because, as they say, variety is the spice of life, Freddy. Though in this case, it's more like the paprika of polygonal chaos. Next, we once again summon our mighty value node to rule them all. Yes, that one, the chosen one. Connect it to the reroute node feeding into the combine XYZ node. And just like that, absolute control is ours. Having fiddled with the W inputs on both noise textures, we can now observe our triangle clusters gracefully going their separate ways as the animation chugs along. Perfect. Now that that's settled, let's grab our original word and feed it into the join geometry node along with the rest. As we move along our timeline, you can get a preview of how the scatterings dance about the word. Lovely. All right, time for some shading. Create 3 set material nodes. One for our base word and one each for the 2 halves of our confetti. In the Materials tab of the Properties panel, create 3 new materials. Name them Base, Glitter 1, and Glitter 2. Then set the names in each of the 3 set material nodes. Hop over to the shader editor and let's begin with the base color. Switch to the rendered view and increase the emission strength. What we would like is for the emission to increase while the alpha decreases over time. For this, let's create a value node. We want this value to increase according to the frame number of our animation, but not too fast. So type in #frame and divide by the power of the explosion that we set earlier, 500. Plug that into the alpha, but as we scrub the timeline, we see a problem. The alpha is increasing, not decreasing, easily fixed with a math node, set to subtract and subtract the value from 1 to invert it. Working but far too slowly. Add another math node and multiply the value up by, say, 20. This will speed things up a bit, as we want the word to fade away rather quickly. Yes, working better, but Freddy, maybe a touch faster. Try 25. That's the magic number. Lock it in. Also, I'd like the strength to fade, but it should start at a much higher strength. So add another math node and multiply our value by around 15. Beautiful. Done. Let's move on to Glitter 1. Our 2 glitter materials will be much simpler. All we would like is for the alpha to increase much the opposite way our base material increased. Recruit another value node and plug it into the alpha of our principled BSDF. Also select a color, say a nice burnt orange, and notch up the strength to around 100. As we did before, let's #frame up our value node and divide by 500. Then give it a go. Difficult to see at the moment, but it is working. Let's take care of Glitter 2 with a similar setup. As before, we need a value node set to #frame, divided by 500. Then plug that value into alpha. For the emission color, let's go with a blue this time and strengthen up to 100. As a finishing touch, let's make the glitter really glitter by reducing the roughness and increasing the metallic. Let's do that for both glitters. Jump over to the compositor editor and tick Use Nodes. Add a glare node, and in the viewport shading, select Always, so we can see the effect. Yes, Freddy, it looks like a disco exploded. Not the effect we want. Switch over to Bloom, please. Better. Now here too we want a fading effect, this time on the bloom strength. Although the alpha fade of the base material is working, it needs a bit of tweaking. Create another value node and #frame it up. but divide by a smaller number to make the effect run faster, say 10. This value will go into our bloom strength, but we'll need a mix color node for better control. Create a mix color node and place it in. Make sure the value goes into the factor of the mix color node and set the color of the first image input to black. The value will factor between black and white, or put more simply, 0 and 1. This out should go into strength, not saturation Freddy. The final effect is a sudden initial bloom, followed by a fade of our base word. Excellent. All right, final bits before rendering. Let's set the world color to black in the World tab, then create a camera and set the view. In our case, it will be top looking down. Hit play and let's see. Oh, by the way, we are working in Eevee. However, cycles will work just as well. Dealer's choice. It's looking wonderful, Freddy. Now keep in mind that we've created a flexible explosion system where we can easily swap out the exploding word. Just go back into Geometry Nodes Editor and change the word in the string node. Any word you like. Pow. Blast. Or even Trump. The dictionary is your oyster, Freddy. Go on. Pick a word to lovingly annihilate. Now for one final flourish. Let's dial up the point density to something gloriously excessive. Around 7,500 should do the trick, or more, if your machine doesn't start audibly groaning. Lush explosions come at a price, after all. I absolutely love it. A right mess. In the best possible way. Now choose your output of choice and give that magical render button a firm tap. And then wait, possibly make a cup of tea, possibly age several years. But it'll be worth it. Probably. This has been Blending with Algernon. A pleasure, a privilege, and quite possibly a mild test of your patience. Thank you ever so much for spending some time with us today. We do hope you enjoyed yourself and, against all odds, maybe even learned something. As always, do consider sharing, liking, and subscribing. It feeds the algorithms and our egos in equal measure. And yes, the working files are linked below. Until next time, blend on. Come along, Freddy. I have some choice words I wish to explode.